Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Crypto Starship. Its mission, to explore new technologies, to seek out new life in the crypto universe, to boldly go where no blockchain has gone before.
Hey guys, this is Captain Eric.
Captain Derek.
Lieutenant Blue.
And welcome to the Crypto Starship. Today, we have a great episode lined up for you, going into blockchain technology itself. But before we start that, Captain Derek, how has it been over there? How are you doing? What is going on?
Doing good. Vietnam Blockchain Week is starting in about a week. Super excited for that. Mostly right now, I'm just working on getting our various crypto projects up and running, working on getting this podcast up and running. So lots of coffee, not a lot of sleep. Life is good.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. It's been a great week, and the sleep is getting less and less, and the work is getting more and more. I think that's universal across the team here.
Yeah.
I heard I heard that the microphones I sent you for Vietnam Blockchain Week are stuck at customs.
Oh yeah,
at the Crypto Starship Universe Customs over there.
Vietnam's customs is one of the most annoying experiences. I don't know if we need to go into details, but it's a lot of FedEx doesn't just deliver stuff to you. They email you and ask you what they're delivering and then ask you to pay money. And I'm just like, FedEx, isn't your job to just deliver something and take it?
Yeah, going with DHL next time.
Yeah.
This is not a plug for DHL, but we're definitely using
this
DHL.
This episode is sponsored by DHL.
DHL coming at you from Vietnam.
So, this is great news though, because if you get the mics on time in the studio over there and you are able to connect with a few different founders at the Vietnam Blockchain Week, we're going to have some great episodes here on the Crypto Starship for our listeners, with multiple faceted founders and developers and other people that you meet at the Blockchain Week. So I'm super excited for that element of this.
Super excited as well. How are you guys doing?
Lieutenant Blue, how you doing?
I'm getting through this week. It's been a long week. We talked last was driving 30 hours to Texas, and I just got back last night from another 30 hours.
Yeah, you're making great decisions in life. I know you're the pilot of the Crypto Starship, but it seems like your side job is
piloting
the Plumobile all the way down to
the
Texas.
Pluber.
The Pluber all the way down to Texas.
It's that friend that I did a favor for a friend, basically, and he messaged me 4 days later saying, "This was a grave mistake. Please come pick me up again." And off I went.
And Lieutenant Plu, being the great pilot that he is, he stood up for the mission and went down there and grabbed him again. Another 2 days of driving. I've
seen more of Texas than I want to.
There's these devices we've invented called airplanes. He can get on one.
I tried to make that very clear. Circumstances out of his control, and maybe I don't want to call him out on this podcast, would prevent him from getting on a plane without getting in trouble by the big guy, Mr. Trump.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
So we don't know all the details there, but it's a great car ride, and I plan on never doing it. For me, the week has been kind of crazy. So getting ready for the podcast launch, making sure that we have everything ready to go, getting ready for the Day of Crypto in Denver, which is coming up, I believe, next week, and which is a one-day conference here, sponsored by Salt Lending and Polymath and some of the other big names in the crypto space. So that's going to be exciting. We will probably be trying to get some interviews from that as well. So when Vietnam Blockchain Week is going on, we'll be trying to pull some interviews at the Day of Crypto in Denver. So we are getting ready for that right now. So everything is going really well. It's been really, really busy, exciting. Crypto is in an interesting spot in the beginning of the year, like many predicted. And I'm expecting over the next month or two, we should see a little more action and a little more involvement in the space as people get back into it full time. So super excited about that. And yeah, just having a great time over here, Derek. Having a great time.
Awesome. So what are we talking about today, Captain Eric?
So today we're jumping into a amazingly simple concept for the people that have been involved with this for a long period of time, but something that still not many people really fully understand, which is blockchain and the underlying technology that drives the crypto markets and drives crypto in general, and what Satoshi built in 2009, 2010 timeline has turned into this community today and continues to evolve almost 10 years later. So, Captain Derek, I know that you are going to give us the analogy that you like the most.
The analogy.
The blockchain analogy. And then we're going to go into some elements of where we think this technology can take us over the next 5, 10, 20 ongoing years.
As we explore the crypto
universe. So we're going to take off, but today our sound engines are broken. We are actually in the crypto universe already. So our 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is being evolved, and we are actually not going to leverage that today. So, Captain Derek, do you want to jump right into the podcast?
Sure.
And into the crypto universe and give us the analogy of blockchain technology?
Okay. Yes. So the best way I've found to answer the question of what is blockchain, because it is such a ephemeral concept, and because it's a buzzword that a lot of people use, but it's a little bit difficult to grasp what exactly the blockchain is and how does blockchain work. The analogy that I found works the best is to explain it this way. So imagine you walk into a lecture hall and you're standing in front of the room like you're the professor, and you're standing behind a podium and you're looking at about 200 people with a piece of paper in front of them. Each of those people have an identical piece of paper, and they're all looking around them and checking each other's paper to see, does all our paper look the same? And everyone's paper looks exactly the same. And on that paper is how much money I have. It's how much money Derek has in his account, how much money Eric has in his account, and how much money Ethan has in his account. Now I step up to this podium and I tap on the mic. Excuse me, everyone. I would like to send Ethan $50. So I step up to this microphone and I announce that to the room. And what happens is one person starts writing. He writes down, okay, Derek minus $50, Ethan plus $50. And then he takes his piece of paper and he shows it to the guy next to him. And the guy next to him goes, okay, Derek minus $50, Ethan plus $50. And then he shows it to the guy next to him until that new piece of information is passed all the way out around the room. And everyone looks at everyone else's paper and they verify that Derek has $50 less and Ethan has $50 more. And everyone's piece of paper looks the same. And then I get off the podium and the next person gets up to the podium, goes, and he announces his next transaction. And that's essentially the way the blockchain works is one person puts a transaction out into the space. Everyone else verifies the transaction and verifies that everyone else's ledger, everyone else's account of everything that has happened in the blockchain is the same. And then they add on the next piece of information. And then once that piece of paper is full, they seal it into what's called a block, or a piece of paper, essentially one segment of information. They put it down and then they start another piece of information.
And then when they're done with that piece of information, Derek, they put that piece of information on top of the other piece of information, right? So it continues to stack that paper over and over after each interaction, after each announcement.
Right. So what happens is when a block is finished, in our example, when our piece of paper is full, the hash of that information, basically, if you take the information that was created on that piece of paper and you apply a bunch of complex math to it, and then that piece of information is used to calculate the beginning of the next block. So every single block you can trace back and verify that nothing on it has changed. And there's essentially a string of blocks that connect to one another mathematically. And that's why it's called a blockchain.
Amazing, amazing. That's a great description.
Why didn't we call it block string?
You can call it the block string.
I'm going to call it the block string.
Lieutenant Plu's block string today is sponsored by
this
DHL.
This is a great analogy. I loved everything. I definitely want to break it down just so I can understand the different pieces in your story so artfully put and apply it to this world. So who is the lecturer in this? The person that steps up to the podium? Can that be anybody?
Yes. Anyone who's making a transaction. Essentially, the way a transaction works is you hold a piece of information that nobody else has, and that's called your private keys. And when you're ready to make a transaction, you use that piece of information, those private keys, to essentially verify that you are who you say you are. So if you have $100 in your bank account and you want to send $50 to Eric, you would take your private key, take Eric's address, right? Like his bank account number, essentially, which is called his public key. Eric can publish his public key wherever he wants without danger of people being able to send money. So you take your private key, which is like a password that you don't share with anybody, and you apply a bunch of math to it so that the blockchain can verify that you have this public key and that you want to send $50 to Eric. And then you publish that piece of mathematical proof onto the blockchain. And that's essentially you announcing your intention to send money to Eric. And then what actually happens on the blockchain is all the different nodes verify with one another that that is indeed what happens. That is indeed what happened. And then that becomes a unchangeable, immutable, permanent part of the blockchain and the string of transactions that make up the blockchain.
So if we break this back down to the lecture, Derek, right? So I am coming up to the stage, to the lecture podium, and saying, okay, I, Eric, and my wallet keys are sending a transaction to Derek, who's in the crowd, for $50 to his public key. And all the individuals or miners or proof of stake contributors, depending on which chain you're on, are sitting in the room, writing this information down, verifying that that transaction is happening between the two wallets or individuals overall. Is a good way to break it down in your analogy, correct?
Right, exactly. In this case, the people writing it down. So blockchain is often called distributed ledger technology. And all that means is that the place your money actually lives, your money doesn't really exist anywhere except for the record of accounts that's kept by everybody. So Bitcoin has nodes all around the world, thousands and thousands of nodes where people are keeping these accounts, identical accounts of how much money everybody has in their wallets.
Exactly.
What's the incentive for these people to track a ledger?
To sit there in the room and write this information down, other than getting a good grade for the class.
Right. Yeah. Why is a student gonna verify what
it's kind of like when Bart Simpson had to write "I will not tell lies" 10,000 times on the whiteboard. It's like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just force these people slave labor.
Right.
There's a payout. There's a payout for mining.
Gotcha.
So there is a reward for keeping the ledger in place and keeping those transactions depending.
Get to work. Verify these transactions.
And when it comes to Bitcoin, when you're mining with physical hardware, you get a payout of a new block every X amount of time. When it comes to proof of stake, they're every 10 minutes. It depends on each chain and what they're leveraging. So there's different timing for each one that leverages that capability. And if you're using proof of stake, which is basically you're staking the coins that you have or showing that you have X amount of coins and putting that up to verify transactions, there's a percentage that you'll get paid out on a monthly basis or yearly basis in coins.
Can you just explain when you're staking X amount of coins, what does that mean?
When you're staking,
what does staking mean?
Staking means you're basically putting up coins, showing that you have these coins and keeping them in a specific wallet so that they can verify other transactions that are going on within the network, and you're getting paid off a specific amount. If it's Neo gives you gas in exchange for staking, and Ethereum's looking to move over to staking as well, and other protocols use it because it has less of a power impact on the chain itself. Bitcoin, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of machines and graphics cards taking a bunch of power around the world to verify the ledger in exchange for the payment every 10 minutes, which costs a ton of money. Proof of stake does not cost nearly as much to leverage, but still has a very strong background in security.
Neo gives me...
Derek, do you want to expand on that?
I was just going to say Neo gives me almost as much gas as burritos, but not quite.
Well, in this situation, probably not much then. Just kidding. Awesome.
I could have used some gas for my trip.
You should have been staking some Neo, my friend.
Wait, Neo Pets or I think I still remember my login. I still remember my login in Neo Pets.
Me too, man. I used to have a skunk paintbrush. I think that was worth like $250,000.
Wow. Oh, if only I didn't lose my Neopet hard drive.
Right.
I'd be so rich in Neopets right now.
You can get some crypto kitties.
Oh yeah.
I want to stake one of those crypto kitties. Have it working for me.
Wait, back into it sounds like slave labor. We're just whipping crypto kitties now into making money for us. This is horrible.
It's.
I mean, this is the path we're going down right now. in the
I have
crypto
an even
universe.
better idea. Instead of forcing them to do work for us, we'll force them to have sex and multiply and breed, and then we can sell their children to other people.
Okay.
This sounds like a great concept.
We should make a game.
Hey, so
I think we should just develop robots that mine for us.
some parts of the crypto universe aren't as advanced and liberal as other parts. People haven't made it through their bad times yet. We as a starship need to be landing in these places, talking to their ambassadors and making sure that they're progressing towards a better way of living.
So they're in the dark ages, maybe.
Right now, the Crypto Kitties planet needs a little bit of conversation to move forward as a race.
So for listeners who are not familiar with CryptoKitties, it's a online game where you can breed kitties and sell them in different marketplaces, which sounds really bad when you put it that way. But it was really popular. It still is really popular.
Yeah. So what were we talking about? Blockchain?
And when we say crypto kitties, we don't mean little children.
No, we mean crypto
kittens.
Kittens.
It's kitties, not kitties. All right. This has gone way off track.
Moving on.
All right, moving on.
Okay, so now that we understand the underlying blockchain technology.
Yeah. So when essentially, let's just say Bitcoin, every 10 minutes, they close the block. And so you stop writing on that paper and add it to.
Yeah, add it to the ledger, and then there'll be a payout for the people that helped basically write that block. And that's across all the miners in the world, which there are thousands, like we mentioned, that are mining and taking care of that and making sure the ledger is basically unhackable because there's so much computer power behind it that there's no single entity that would have enough power to reverse a transaction. In order for a transaction to be reversed or changed or updated, 51% of the power would have to be in the hands of the people that wanted to do that. And because there are so many miners around the world, it's virtually impossible for any single entity to corrupt the ledger.
Yeah, and it would cost about $1 billion to create enough computing power to take over 51% of Bitcoin's network. And then if someone tried to do something like that, as soon as they created a duplicate transaction or deleted a transaction or did anything bad, they would just get kicked off the network. So essentially they would spend $1 billion to not really get much done. So as far as Bitcoin's concerned, I think a 51% attack where someone tries to get 51% of the computing power is pretty unlikely. But a lot of these newer blockchains that have a lot less traction, it still definitely is possible.
Yeah, and let's be clear here. It's not like the billionaire can just whip out his Amex Black Card and send $1 billion somewhere and all of a sudden have enough network power to do that. It would be a big investment, a lot of time. Being able to even get that amount of resource required from a graphics card perspective, there's probably even not enough supply in the world to even buy that many graphics cards right now.
We're driving through Utah and we just see this giant government building just with like solar panels and windmills and just any type of like way to produce electricity. It's just all here, just
being pulled
into
the middle of Texas, right near Houston on the drive down. Yeah, so it would take a long period of time for anyone to set that up. And by the time they were even able to get that kind of power, they would probably have to buy more because the entire mining group is growing over time. So it would be harder and harder as we move forward. Awesome. So Captain Derek, with this great technology that's in place, what do you think over the next 5, 10, 20 years, we're going to see change on planet Earth, at least when it comes to our technology, how we're leveraging it, how blockchain affects society and so on? Is there any use cases that you see really taking place over these next 5 years that are going to be powerful for the civilians of Earth?
Yeah, I think so. When I first heard about blockchain technology, I didn't fully see how big of a deal it could be.
I know.
To me, it was decentralized money, which is very cool. It's unchangeable, which is cool, but I don't think I really saw how big it could be. Over the last couple of years, we've really seen an explosion in terms of the potential ways blockchain can be used. Right now, I think the kind of killer application, so to speak, of blockchain is probably fundraising. So there's more funds raised today via the blockchain than via all of venture capital combined. I think we'll see a lot of innovation across all kinds of different industries. So some industries like the blockchain because it is a fast and immutable, meaning unchangeable way of doing transactions. So the financial industry is looking into blockchain very seriously. And there's other companies such as self-driving cars, Internet of Things, where, for example, your fridge or your refrigerator or your front door is connected to the internet. Those kinds of technologies are using different kinds of blockchains to also interact with one another. So I think right now there's people experimenting with blockchain in just about every industry. I think the most successful industry so far is finance, from everything from investing to lending to trading. But I definitely expect to see very impactful things come from blockchain in a wide range of different places.
I completely agree. I think for me, in the next 5 or 10 years, one of the areas that I will find very interesting, and I think a few countries might potentially jump on board with this, is finally moving identification of civilian citizens, their voting rights, where they vote, how they track their taxes, how they track their engagement with their government, how they move information from company to company, and how they live in their country themselves, becoming digital because the ability to move those types of information onto the blockchain itself and keep them safe. And for example, I think Estonia is probably the closest to a digital society that we see around the world when it comes to how their civilians have their identification cards, how they can push information from one place to the other online, how they pay their taxes, how they vote, so on. And I think there's more and more countries that can potentially move on to a blockchain-based system that is protected and easy to use and leverage and really push their country forward when it comes to these mundane paper systems that they have in place that really slow down government in general and slow down the way that people engage with their country. So I think there'll be evolution in the government front as well on some progressive countries that are really trying to advance themselves and become leaders in the global economy.
I'm excited to see that. I think so. There's a few properties to blockchain that make it attractive to different industries. So there's the fact that there's no single point of failure. There's a lot of people are involved, and even if half the servers went down, the blockchain continues. It's not controlled by any entity. So one person can't come along and decide to change everything. Data that's written into the blockchain can't be changed, and it's completely transparent, so anyone can look at it. So I think any organization for whom transparency, redundancy, and kind of permanence makes a product better, I think those are the industries that will see a lot of success from blockchain. And like you said, government identity is definitely one of them.
Completely agree. Awesome. So, Lieutenant Plu, do you have anything that you hope happens or look forward to or potentially see this working for?
I want to understand how having so many different types of currencies is a benefit. I'm trying to wrap my head around, in the future, would it be, well, I have 10 grocery crypto coins, I can buy some groceries with this? Or is there a benefit to having so many different types of currencies? Or is there something else that what am I missing here?
So personally, I don't think blockchain in the future will be considered 1,400 or 2,000 or 3,000 different currencies. I think you will see the major players come into play whether it be Bitcoin and Ethereum as what people will consider an exchangeable currency if it gets to that point. And the tokens that these companies are built on are either used for a specific utility on the platform that they are built into, or as a funding vehicle for that company itself. I don't think you're going to say, oh, I'm going to send 12 Dogecoin or 12 X coin from whatever company to you to pay for something. I think that will evolve over time. I think utility tokens are more focused on helping companies come into existence instead of being specific currency that people leverage. Now, we might see in the government perspective where we see Estonia or another government or Puerto Rico or someone going onto the blockchain holistically, there be a country currency, which Russia's talked about and some other countries have talked about. We might see that. But I don't think these individual companies that are popping up and people are investing in will be considered currencies. They're just tokens, and they might be a security token, which has more of a investment style, or a utility token, which is focused on a utility within the platform that they're building. So I don't consider the majority of tokens that are on the exchange right now as currency at all. And I don't think many people do. There might be some exceptions to that rule for a few different coins, but I wouldn't consider them currency in any way, shape, or form.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think 1,000 is definitely not enough. We definitely need more currencies.
Okay, definitely.
Yeah,
Just keep
we
it all
need
coming.
100,000, as many as possible.
Yeah.
Everyday currencies, like I was saying, grocery shopping.
And
gas.
if you can't keep track of which currency to buy gas with or to buy groceries with, that's really your fault.
Exactly. And if you lose your wallet keys for the gas currency, you shouldn't be able to fill up your tank. You should literally just be stranded. It's your fault.
Blockchain technology.
Hashtag blockchain technology.
Right? Didn't they come up with something that you could attach to your keys and it just beeps when you need to just like go on your phone and press beep? So that all these people that lost their keys, they should just
the tracker.
Yeah.
The
tracker.
Yeah, that's funny. Awesome. Yeah, so completely agree. The tracker is an option if you lose your keys before you go get your gas, so you can get your wallet back and pay for the gas. But before we jump into any more gas-related currency topics, I wanted to think about both sides of the coin here. Derek, what are some of the downfalls to blockchain right now and the technology in general?
So there's definitely a few areas where blockchain does worse than a traditional database or even just your iPhone computer. So it's very, very slow, right? Because everyone has to verify every single transaction, which means you're using a lot of redundant computing power, not to mention the computing power you're using to mine the coins. So your iPhone is actually about 10,000 times faster than the Ethereum blockchain to do a similar amount of computation. The cost per byte of data being written to the blockchain is extremely high, both in terms of electricity and just dollar amount. So I think right now what we're seeing in the ICO kind of bubble, where a lot of people are launching a lot of different projects, is people are applying blockchain to just about any technology that exists in the world in every single industry. And a lot of these industries, I think blockchain actually makes it worse because you're taking something that's fast and cheap already in the form of a centralized database and you're making it slow and expensive instead. But I do think that right now we're kind of in this Cambrian explosion phase of blockchain, which is not that dissimilar from the internet. When the internet first came along, everyone was like, well, it can revolutionize retail. It can revolutionize, the way we talk to each other. It can revolutionize all these things. And there were tons and tons of failure, especially in the dot-com bubble. But we started through experimentation to see which were the actual use cases where the internet made things better and dramatically better. So I think right now we are seeing a lot of people applying blockchain to projects where blockchain really has no business being in. And I think people don't necessarily think enough about the downsides of blockchain. But I don't think this level of experimentation is bad either, because we will find the home run use cases of blockchain just through the sheer number of projects that are being launched right now. But yeah, there's definitely big downsides to blockchain in terms of cost and speed. And yeah, sometimes even having an immutable ledger isn't a good thing. Sometimes you don't want people to be able to see every transaction you've ever made or how much money you have in your wallet. So yeah, those are some of the downsides.
Yeah, and as we discussed in a previous podcast, over time, these chains will become faster. So we'll only be able to see what really makes sense fully as we develop the technology and the underlying blockchain technology itself. So completely agree. I think there's a lot of projects coming up which have no business being on a blockchain and don't really need it. But we're going to learn over time how those evolve, how effective they are, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. And we can start streamlining our talent into the places that make the most sense in the blockchain community. And we start to find the people that are heavily involved, and you find the connections and the people that can move forward with projects over the many years to come to build excellent products in the blockchain space. Awesome. So guys, this was a great episode. I'm super excited that we are back and everybody is here together. I know that the next episode will be a little less beginner focused and more what's going on in the crypto space, what's going on in the crypto universe, interviews with the Vietnam Blockchain Week people, interviews with the Crypto Day of Crypto in Denver participants. So super excited about our upcoming episodes.
Getting down and dirty here.
Getting down and dirty. Thank you so much, guys. I'm Captain Eric.
Captain Derek.
Lieutenant Plu.
And we are out. Live long and crypto on.
Crypto.
The Crypto Starship is a production of Starship Media LLC. The contents of the show, including our videos, podcasts, and our website, are provided for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investing, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any financial, investing, trading, or life decisions based on our show. Understand that investing or trading in digital assets has potential risks involved. Before investing, make sure to do your own due